The NASCAR Cup Series heads to Martinsville Speedway, and we see a very clutch victory for Christopher Bell and another driver pull off an insane clutch moment to make it to the championship four. What's going on, guys? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. I just got done watching NASCAR Cup Series race from Martinsville Speedway, the Xfinity 500. We got a lot to talk about from today's race. Let's go ahead and talk about it. So, no drivers actually would start at the rear of the field at the beginning. So, at the start of the race, you had Kyle Larson lead the field from the outside and Chase Elliott on the inside. And Kyle Larson would dominate the early portion of the race and was able to get to the race lead and keep it. Then eventually on lap 69 of the race, we had the first lead change of the race where Chase Elliott got around Kyle Larson for the race lead. Chase Elliott would lead for a while, and then about 50 laps later, Denny Hamlin got around Chase Elliott with around 10 laps to go in stage number 1 to get the race lead, and he would come off the corner to win stage number 1. Then all the cars would come down pit road with Denny Hamlin winning the race off pit road. Chase Briscoe was having a very strong run in the beginning of the race. He unfortunately got penalized for removing equipment. He was kind of falling a little bit back to the field. He was in 5th position at the time. He would start at the rear of the field, making his day much more difficult. So on the restart, Denny Hamlin would lead the field from the inside and Chase Elliott on the outside, and Denny Hamlin would dominate and pull away. Meanwhile, Todd Reddick went to the garage and basically said he wasn't feeling well. We'll talk about more on that later in this week, but Todd Reddick went to the garage and fell out of his race. Meanwhile, Beach McLeod later in this race, his car basically caught on fire, and he basically ended up falling out of the race quintessentially. Denny Hamlin, though, dominate, and he went stage number 2. All lead lap cars would come down pit road with Denny Hamlin winning the race off pit road. And meanwhile, on pit road, J.J. Lee's car caught on fire. So on the restart, Denny Hamlin lead the field from the inside and Kyle Larson on the outside. And then a lap later, as the race continued on, Ross Chastain basically just got into the back of Brad Keselowski and basically spun Brad Keselowski out, bringing out the caution completely on Chastain, just overdrove the corner. He brought the caution out. Then a couple cars that come down the road. Joe Logano's car was on fire a little bit, and Ross Chastain and Brad Keselowski came down with damage. So on the restart, Denny Hamlin lead the field from the inside and Chase Elliott on the outside, and Denny Hamlin got a great restart and kept the race lead. Then on lap 3, 20 things would change as Austin Dillon got into the outside wall really hard with the flat tire with the rotor issue, bringing out the caution. And because of this, Chase Briscoe finally got the free pass. Then all the cars would come down pit road with Christopher Bell winning the race off pit road because Denny Hamlin had a terrible pit stop and dropped back to 4th. So on the restart, Christopher Bell lead the field from the inside with Ryan Blaney on the outside, and Christopher Bell was able to get a really good restart and keep the race lead. Christopher Bell would dominate Blaney trying to close, and then on lap 393, another caution would come out for J.J. Yielding, who basically spun after some contact from Corey LaJoie as he was backing up, had a tire going down. J.J. Yielding spun in the outside wall, bringing out the yellow. So all lead lap cars would come off pit road, with Christopher Bell winning the race off pit road over Ryan Blaney. So on the restart, you had Christopher Bell lead the field from the inside with Ryan Blaney on the outside, and Christopher Bell was able to hold the race lead. And then the final caution in the race would come out with 34 laps to go for Landon Cassill. Landon Cassill had an issue on his car. I think he had a tire going down, hit the outside wall really hard, bringing out the yellow. So at this point, you can decide if you want to stay out or you want to come to pit road. Well, majority leaders, including Christopher Bell and Kyle Larson, came down pit road, while Chase Briscoe decided to stay out from 9th position with Cole Custer, and Denny Hamlin had a terrible pit stop and lost a ton of positions. So on the final restart of the race, you had Chase Briscoe lead the field from the inside with Cole Custer on the outside, and Chase Briscoe got a good restart and was able to clear for the race lead. And then with around 7-8 laps to go, chaos started soon because before that, Denny Hamlin, Ross Chastain, they basically were beating and banging. Meanwhile, you had a lot of insane stuff going on between Christopher Bell and Brad Keselowski, who had fresher tires, including Kyle Larson as well, and they were coming to the field as well. They started catching up to Chase Briscoe, and with 5 laps to go, Christopher Bell got to the inside of Chase Briscoe and got to the race lead. And on the white flag, as Christopher Bell was starting to basically go ahead and pull away, on the last lap of the race, Denny Hamlin actually had the position and was moving through the field. All of a sudden, Ross Chastain coming into turn number 3, he completely sends it on the outside, rides the wall, the best I've ever seen someone pull a video game move, and actually pulled off one of the most incredible moves I've seen all year, and gets to the championship four with that incredible move. Meanwhile, Christopher Bell actually pulls off another clutch victory and picks up his 3rd win of the 2022 season. Christopher Bell's definitely been a clutch driver all year long. To have 3 wins in a year, great for Christopher Bell, his 4th career Cup Series victory, and pulls off another really incredible clutch victory. I want to talk about that move by Ross Chastain, though. That was incredibly insane. I've never seen a driver do that, and he goes to the championship Championship 4, and Denny Hamlin does not go to the Championship 4 with that move. So Cristobal is locked in with the win. Congratulations to him, but also great run for Ross Chastain as well to pull off that incredible move. But Cristobal is going to a Championship 4 along with a couple other drivers. So now we're going to take a look at the results of this race and give you my score of today's race. So Cristobal picks up the victory. Kyle Larson finishes second. Kyle Larson definitely had a really strong car today. I think going into 2023, you got to look at Larson's as definitely a championship threat and a championship favorite. Larson with a great run today. Second place, ran top 5 pretty much all day long. Had a good 2-tire strategy call and gets a strong second place finish. Ryan Blaney finishes third. Blaney had a pretty good car today. Struggled in the beginning, but they definitely bounced back for sure and gets an awesome top 5 finish. Great run from Ryan Blaney, but unfortunately for Blaney, he will not be racing for a championship as he needed to win. He will not race for a title. Brad Keselowski finishes 4th. Major credit to Brad Keselowski. Keselowski had a really good car today. I think his second straight top 5 finish. Keselowski's first time, I believe, also the Roush has finished in the top 10, in the top 5 actually here since 2012. Matt Kenseth did it. So amazing run for Brad Keselowski today. Incredible comeback as well. He finishes 4th. Ross Chastain, after that bullseye move, while riding to the checker flag, he finishes in 5th. Chastain gets the race for a championship, an incredible moment, and a fantastic move at the end of the race. He finishes 5th. Great run at the end of the day for Ross Chastain. Denny Hamlin finishes 6th. I think Denny Hamlin probably had the best car for most of the day, but unfortunately the pit crew really made a ton of mistakes and put him in that position where he's basically going in on points. Hamlin, unfortunately, will not race for a championship. He was moving to the field, really fast car, but unfortunately finishes 6th. Unfortunately, will not race for a championship, and definitely going to be looking back at a year he could have definitely been better, but he did make the round of 8, which is where I thought he was going to make, but Denny Hamlin will not race for a championship. Joey Logano finishes 7th. Logano had a top 10 car a majority of the day, but wasn't a threat. But a solid 7th run regardless. He didn't need to win this race. He just had to ride around and didn't really cause any trouble, and he finishes 7th. William Byron finishes 8th. Byron struggled for the most part, could not get through the field early, but when the rubber came in, he kind of drove to the field and gets an 8th place finish. But unfortunately for Byron, did not score any stage points, and unfortunately for him, he will not be racing for a title next week at Phoenix with that 8th place run. Bubba Wallace, who's back after a 1-week suspension. Great run for Bubba Wallace. He actually had a top 5 car near the end of the race and is running around 5th near the end. Ran top 10 a lot of the day. Gets a 9th place finish. Good to see Bubba Wallace back on the racetrack after the 1-race suspension. We'll talk about him later this week, most likely tomorrow on the channel. But he finishes 9th. Great run from Bubba Wallace. Chase Briscoe tried to pull a really clutch move near the end. Nearly ended up doing it with 5 to go. Got past. He unfortunately fell back to the field with the old tires. He finishes 10th. Chase Briscoe is going to be looking back at that Homestead race because if he doesn't have the issue at Homestead, he probably has a chance to make it on points, but he finishes 10th. Chase Elliott finished 11th. I think Chase Elliott had a better car than 11th place, but their car just kind of fell off near the end. I thought Chase Elliott was actually going to miss the Final 4, but he'll be racing for a championship next week at Phoenix. Elliott led a lot of laps today. I think he led like 52 or 53 laps today, but he never got back on the front. It was very difficult to pass for him. He finishes 11th. Harrison Burton finished 12th. I want to give him a shout out because Harrison Burton had a top 10 with like 150 to go. I saw him in the top 10, so he gets a 12th place run, one of his better runs for sure. Gets a 12th place finish. Great run from him. Daniel Suarez finishes 13th. Apparently had some brake rotor issues maybe near the end. He gets 13th. Ran top 10 a lot of the day, but kind of fell back. How about Todd Gillen finishing 14th? Todd Gillen had a pretty good car all day long and gets a 14th place finish. Ran top 15 a lot of the day. That 38 looks good. I think Gillen's looking to be better next year. He finished 14th. Cole Custer finishes in 15th. I feel actually really bad for Cole Custer because Cole Custer actually had a top 5 car for most of the day. Ran top 5 for more than half this race. But unfortunately, he kind of just fell back and never recovered throughout the day. I think the pit crew kind of dropped the ball for him. But it's a shame, too. It's unclear if he'll be back in 41 next year or not. Gets a 15th place finish, but it is what it is. Eric Almirola finishes in 16th. Kevin Hart finishes 17th. Michael McDowell finishes 18th. Eric Jones, the dog would do a little better today. He finishes 19th. Ty Gibbs, who we'll talk about later this week as well, he finishes 20th. Mark Truex Jr. thought he was even more of a threat today, even though he really didn't. He finishes 21st. Corey LaJoie was strong early, but fell back late. He finishes 22nd. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. finishes 23rd. A.J. Allmendinger finishes 24th. Chris Buescher finishes 25th. Noah Gragson, who struggled today, finishes 26th. Austin Cindric finishes 27th. Had a really bad day today in that 2 car. Justin Haley finishes 28th. Cody Ware finishes 29th. And Kyle Busch finishes 30th. Kyle Busch probably would be happy at 30th, but terrible car today. Kyle Busch at one point was running last 4 or 5 laps down, so he did finish in the top 30, but he just had an awful car today. I think he's definitely ready to go ahead and head over to Rich Schultz Racing next year. I think he's ready to head on over there, but he finishes in 30th. Unfortunate day for Kyle Busch. JG Lee, after multiple fires, finishes 31st. Ty Dillon, after brake issues, finishes 32nd. Landon Castle, after crashing out, 33rd. Austin Dillon finishes 34th. BJ Koff finishes 35th. And finishing last in 36th in today's race is Tyler Reddick. So now, let's talk about the 4 drivers who will be racing for a championship here next week at Phoenix, pending post-race inspection. First, you've got Chase Elliott. Chase Elliott with 5 wins this year. He'll be racing for a championship next week at Phoenix. Second, Christopher Bell with 3 wins in 2022. Christopher Bell has clutched in 2 moments. Can he clutch again next week at Phoenix? We'll talk about that later this week, what my projections are for him. But he'll be racing for a championship. The third driver, that being Ross Chastain with a bullseye move. Chastain was the best finisher of the 4 drivers who made the championship, of the guys who made the championship 4. He was contending for the win the last time, so you got to look at him as a threat. And finally, you've got Joey Logano, who won at Las Vegas, who will be going for a championship as well. So now, let's talk about the overall race as a whole and give you my score for today's race. Honestly, despite the crazy ending of this race, I don't think this race is that great. To be honest, there was good moments for sure. I think this race is definitely better than the spring for sure. There was a little more action. It did happen at points in this race. But unfortunately, it's very similar to spring. It was very difficult to pass. However, I will say this race is better. There's definitely better than some races for sure. This definitely was not the worst race of the year. And the ending made up a little bit for it, though I will say there were some races that were definitely better than others. But that middle portion race, it was just so hard to watch. Like, the end of stage 1 was good, and the end of the race was great, but that middle portion just was not great for me. So my overall score for today's race at Martinsville, especially for the standards we set at Martinsville, I'm going to give today's race at Martinsville overall a 6 out of 10. Like I said, I definitely want to see a little better for sure. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great. The ending makes up a little bit for it. It probably been a 5 out of 10 race if not for the ending, but a 6 out of 10 is a score, but definitely better than the spring. So, that is your today's NASCAR Cup Series race review from Martinsville Speedway. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe to the channel, notifications on, so be notified when a video does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support me on Patreon as well. List description below that, and comment your thoughts on today's race. What are your thoughts on today's race? Let me know below. Let me know your score in the comments below, and congratulate Christopher on picking up a clutch victory at Martinsville and Ross Chastain pulling off that incredible move. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Tomorrow on my channel, we're going to have 2 videos on the channel. First, there's going to be the Trucks Championship 4 video. We'll talk about all 4 drivers competing for the championship, and I'll tell you who I think will be the champion. And then later that day as well, there is going to be a NASCAR news video dropping on the channel. Then Tuesday will be Xfinity. Then Wednesday will be a double upload with a news video and the Championship 4 picks for the Cup Series. Then on Thursday, we're going to have the race picks for the championship race at Phoenix. And then Friday, we're going to have a double upload, Saturday single upload, and Sunday a single upload. A lot of content on the way for the channel. I think you're all going to enjoy. So anyway, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's episode, and I'll see you guys next time for some more great, awesome NASCAR content and other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.